Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. I am your host, Mike Jokum. Joining me today from Wayne Taylor Racing for the second time is Bill Mullen, and for the first time is mechanic Michael Langston and front-end mechanic Chris Seaman. So, Bill, welcome back. Mike and Chris, thank you for joining me.
Hello, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys very much for joining. So, since I already asked Bill this question, I'll start with Chris and Mike. We've been in quarantine now for a couple of months. So, as a mechanic, how do you stay kind of ready for the season to get underway? Is it a lot of video chats and things along those lines just to stay busy and stay focused on any projects that you might have once things get back underway?
I can let you start there, Chris, if you want.
All right. Yeah, we've had several conference calls amongst the team members. I think some of us have tried to keep up with our workout program just to try and stay in some kind of shape for once we do get back to doing pit stops and all the other stuff. But I think some of us have also just been mechanically tinkering around the house as well, just to try and keep up on those skills.
I can back that up. I've got several different car projects going on in the garage, and so tinkering here and there on other things and just doing, normal house projects, staying busy, the usual, same thing everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I'm becoming quite the connoisseur at how to recover a yard that was brown and now looks mainly green. So I definitely understand that. So Chris, as a fuel man, do you just drive your car down to the shop and pretend to the gas station and pretend you're fueling a car just for the sense of excitement?
No, I haven't done that. That as long as it seems an IMSA pit stop takes even longer. So fortunately, I haven't put that many miles on my trucks to even have to fill it up.
Yeah, I think I filled up my car once in 2 months, and it's only because I've taken a few grocery trips down to my parents' house in southeastern Pennsylvania. So, Bill, thank you again for joining. Everybody seemed to really like the first episode we did, so I'll start with you for question number 2 here. With the racing season kind of looking like it might get back underway here in the next month, are you starting to kind of focus meetings on assuming that racing is going to start in the first month? How do you kind of focus on the race season with so much going on in the world at the same time?
Well, it's going to be unusual. It sounds like the first race or a couple of races might be without spectators. I'm not sure of that, but I don't know. I mean, the race car was ready to go when all this happened. It was ready to go to Sebring, so that part of it is done. We kind of got to get back into the actual rhythm of a race weekend, because there's definitely a rhythm to how things go. And not having done that for a couple of months now, it's gonna take a minute or two to get back into that rhythm. So, got to get in the right frame of mind. Got to get in that race weekend frame of mind, and just go after it, I guess.
I like it. So this question will be for all three of you. We've seen some drivers and guys come up with new quarantine hobbies like artwork. James Hinchcliffe mentioned to me the other day that he was trying to become a juggler but hadn't yet succeeded. So I'm curious if any of you guys have come up with any new hobbies, whether it be something simple or something like juggling.
Oh, man. I don't think I've ever taken up any. No. Yeah, it's as far as me. I mean, I think as race mechanics, we're all, normal race conditions and, normal season. We're all just pretty much busy and on the go a lot of the time, that it's hard to kind of do the normal activities that most people kind of take for granted on a weekend. So as far as me, it's just been kind of relaxing and trying to catch up on those sort of things, like, maintaining your lawn or your flower beds. Or for me, it was, I took down a fence and, replaced the fence. So it's kind of the day-to-day things that we find a little more difficult to do because we're so busy. I've just been trying to catch up on those little projects.
I would agree with that as well. I mentioned, I think in the first podcast, I live in an 80-year-old house, and I've been here 20 years or so, and I've done some projects that I have wanted to do for going on 20 years. So I finally finished a couple of projects. So I feel pretty good about that, but it's unfortunate that it had to happen in the way that it happened.
Yeah, I kind of along those same lines. I'm not in a house my house is probably a little over 50 years old at this point. And I've, same deal, done a bunch of projects around the house. Me and my son tore down an old mini barn and leveled the ground and planted grass seed. So I'm just happy that I actually have grass growing there now.
Well, I could still use help on part of my lawn then.
It sounds like the general consensus is we've all taken up, general house maintenance as a hobby.
That's about right.
I mean, it's not the worst thing. Trust me. My wife does not trust me with a hammer or any sort of drill in the house. So I might need the help whenever the off season occurs in, I don't know, November, I guess at this point. So I think since Bill and I talked last, I can't remember when they made the actual announcement that Sebring had been moved to the middle of November, which is typically a March race. So is there any difference between having the race in March versus November, other than it's probably going to be a little bit colder? And part two of that question, when I was talking with, I think it was, who was I talking with last week? I already forget who I talked to on your team last week, but he mentioned that.
Well, you've spoken to Travis and Sean Ford.
Oh, Brian Pilar and Logan were mentioning to me, or maybe more Brian, since Logan is newer to the team, but mentioning that you guys do really well in cold weather races for whatever reason. So I don't have any thoughts on that, and thoughts on Sebring in November.
I'll let you start there, Bill.
Well, I don't think it's going to be any better than March, because Sebring is just, I don't know, it's not many mechanics' favorite place to go.
I think it's still going to rain no matter what.
Yeah, it's probably still going to rain. They held the Lamborghini Super Trofeo finals there in November one year, and it was actually cold and rainy and nasty. And so I'm not looking forward to it. But the fact that we do seem to have a car setup that comes alive in cold weather, it could be very advantageous to us. So we've got that to look forward to, I guess.
I think along those lines, I mean, I tend to agree with how our car seems to work in the cooler conditions. I think the bigger thing from the mechanics and maybe the car side of things is, man, we're looking at a pretty rough stretch to end the year and to begin the year. If you look at it, we're going to have the 10 hours of Petit Le Mans about a month beforehand. There may potentially be a race in between there, and then we have 12 hours of Sebring. And then we're going to roll into the new year, which is only now 2 months to prepare for, going into the Roar in January, and then the 24-hour race at the end of January. and then follow that up again with another 12 hours at Sebring. So there's a lot of hours of racing there that's going to be condensed into a pretty tight time schedule as far as the amount of work that needs to be done to prepare for all those races and all that those hours of racing.
I think I just got tired listening to that schedule there.
Sorry.
And it's much easier for me to sit in a chair in the media center than it is to be a mechanic or anything like that. And it's still tiring. So with that being said, it sounds like the consensus from the mechanic side of thing is, while the drivers and fans might love Sebring, the mechanics might not necessarily agree with the difficulty of the racing circuit and the drivers and fans' love for it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's the track is very, very hard on cars. It's I think much harder on the car than 24 hours at Daytona. It's
oh, for sure.
Man.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Just because of the rough surface.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona being, you're doing 24 hours on a, freshly paved, smooth track versus 12 hours on an old airstrip that's, sections of the concrete are, at different levels, different, they've moved and shifted, and you've got cracks in the concrete and stuff like that. It definitely, it beats the car up quite a bit.
How do you, I'm curious, how do you plan for Sebring with the bumps in the surfaces and everything? Is there kind of a general consensus that you go with, like, all right, let's focus on speed, or let's focus on cornering or handling? How do you set up an IMSA car for such a difficult track?
Oh, I mean, I think you might have the better answer for that, Chris.
To me, I would say, I think it's almost, I don't want to say it's like any other track, but you have to go with the mindset that you're going to have to compromise somewhere, right? So to me, I would think you're wanting to, cornering is probably the biggest thing, because there's some really long straightaways at Sebring. So, you're trying to maximize your corner speed, so you're getting down those long straightaways as quickly as possible.
It's amazing, because I know, from my IndyCar background, a lot of the teams go there. The IndyCar teams go and test on half the course. They do street course setups. So it's almost a really good, comparison to like a Long Beach or a Detroit, as far as, surface conditions and, course management on that side. Like Chris said, on the other half of the course, we've got the long straightaway. So for an IMSA car, it's got to be, on the engineer side, quite a difficult task to, one, make the car soft enough and not kill the car, over the bumps and undulations, but at the same time maintain the grip to get the cornering speed for the long straightaways and make the thing last for 12 hours. So
yeah, I agree with all that.
I don't envy that. So I'll switch gears here slightly. Question for Mike and Chris. How did you guys both get into motorsports, and before you were motorsports professionals? And I see you both have some IndyCar experience. So for those fans out there that are more IndyCar fans, what was it like working in the open wheel paddock for a handful of years?
Oh, Chris, again, you've got more years on me, so I'll let you start that one.
I got into racing, when I was 17, doing dirt track stuff. My uncle had a dirt late model, and I'd done that for years. I went to a mechanic school for Ford Motor Company. I don't know if I can say that, being on a Cadillac team right now. But I worked in a car dealership for a few years, and honestly, I got into racing because I knew somebody. The guy I worked with at the dealership, his buddy worked at Penske Racing in Reading, PA. And I met him. We talked. I actually sent in a resume and got an interview, and I got hired into Penske Racing back in '95. Started in the engine shop, and then got on the road with IndyCar, or at that point it was kart. And then obviously the names changed throughout the years, but had a lot of good years in IndyCar racing. Yeah. And I think the one thing like this break that we have right now, because obviously we're in May, 4 months since we've had a race. Maybe Mike and I are a little better suited to deal with it because of the IndyCar schedule, where we had like a 6-month off season after the season was over. But I think you're just ready to get back. At this point, I'm ready to get back to it and kind of eager to get back to racing and get back to some kind of norm. What in my world is a normal schedule.
I totally agree there. This has all been quite odd. I mean, especially for a group of guys that we're used to the fast-paced kind of lifestyle of being a mechanic, where we're spend a couple of days in the shop, build a car, turn it around, put it on a truck, fly to the next event, do a race weekend. Everything's laid out, time schedule, by the minute of what we have to do to get the car ready and on track and do what, our duties and all that, to all of a sudden 2 months, there's nothing. It's been quite tedious and hard to kind of put your head around. So I'm definitely ready to get back, for sure.
I understand
I know,
that. Oh,
yeah, I know. As far as I think me and Chris, I've listened to Chris's story, several times. Just me and him talking back and forth of how we've gotten started in racing, and it's amazing the similarities of it. I'm from a small town in Mississippi, Pearl, Mississippi, and there's not much as far as racing. It's either you go dirt track racing or you don't do racing at all. And I just kind of fell into dirt track racing. Wound up owning my own car and running it and running other people's stuff, and went to a General Motors ASAP program, so I can say that, being on the Cadillac team. And learn the basic mechanic skills and learn how to work on street cars, and did that for a couple of years. And then finally I sent a resume into Skip Barber Race School and got hired there, and kind of cut my teeth on what it took to be a race car mechanic. Did that for a couple of years, and then my first venture into professional racing was Fernandez Race Team. They ran a P2 prototype in the ALMS at the time, and won a championship with them. They closed the doors, and then I got hired by what is now Aero Schmidt, or Aero, how do they say it? Is it Aero McLaren SP now? Is that it? Yeah. So yeah, I was hired with them for basically my entire IndyCar career was with that team, that group of guys. Great group of guys. I did not leave the team. I just left the schedule. And then got picked up by Wayne Taylor here, which I cannot be happier being a part of this group of guys. They're awesome.
Another question for you guys, and Bill, if you want to chime in with anything that maybe you didn't say on this question a couple of weeks ago, but what is it like working for Wayne Taylor and Wayne Taylor Racing?
I think I pretty much said my praises of the whole place. It's been, and I started working for Wayne back in '96, and on and off, we kept coming back to working together, and the last several years with Wayne Taylor Racing has just been a very good place to be. I'm pretty sure the other guys will feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, as far as me, I mean, I came, again, Schmidt is not, a bad guy to work for. I mean, we were taken care of there. I mean, there's a reason why I stood there for so long. I mean, it was, the guys, definitely the people on the team helped make it easier to work with or work at. I mean, the group of guys that you're working next to every day. But as far as Wayne Taylor, I mean, if you just look at this current situation we're in, I mean, I'm super grateful for him and taking care of us. And I mean, he's almost treated us like family. I mean, for the most part, I mean, he's really wants to take care of his employees, and he's definitely showed that throughout the entire COVID problem. So I'd like to give them thanks for that. But as well as the guys on the team, I mean, each and every one of them, just good bunch of guys. I mean, it's easy to work with everybody when we all kind of get along and we all know what we need to do and take care of each other. So it's an amazing place to work for, I have to say.
I have to reiterate the same thing. I mean, I've been pretty fortunate with some of the teams I've worked for throughout the years. Obviously, Penske Racing, Seaman Motorsports, Andretti Autosport, and some of them, obviously Penske, Andretti, bigger teams, definitely have a different feel than the small, tight-knit group of guys we have here. And, you know, I feel Mr. Taylor treats us more like family than employees. He's been incredible to work for. And I would have to, it's like working for Mr. Penske. He knows your name. I mean, obviously we're a smaller team than working at Penske Racing, but it's like I say, it's more like a family than being treated as another employee or, you know, another number on the floor. He's been great through this whole pandemic that we're going through, and yeah, you know, just reiterate the same thing. It's like a family.
I love it. So I will wrap it up with one question here for all three. So, and guys, thank you very much for the time this morning. If you had to pick one driver to drive for Wayne Taylor, you get an extra spot on one of the DPI cars. Which driver would you want to be a mechanic for?
Oh, right. I mean, right now, I mean, I think for me, I think it'd be pretty easy. I mean, and I'm going to pick from a pool of past DPI drivers we've had at, you know, endurance races in the past. I think I'd like to have Kamui as a full time. That'd be pretty amazing.
I'd go for Jordan or Ricky Taylor.
Well, you've had more experience with them driving than I have, so.
Wow. Yeah. That's a way to put us on the spot here, Mike.
Listen, that's
yeah.
I have to do that at least once an episode.
We've had some really good guys in this car. You know, from obviously the Taylor brothers have done a phenomenal job for us. You know,
Fernando's another one. But.
Fernando came in and he was amazing in 2019 in the rain at Daytona.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Kamui has done, I mean, he did a fabulous job in 2019 and then again this year. I mean, he was a rock star.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not sure I can answer that question and not feel bad like I'm slighting somebody.
Well, you got to hurt somebody's feelings, Chris.
Well, I wouldn't put me behind the wheel. I know that.
Oh, no, I'd be the last one.
Wow. I don't know. I kind of got to agree with Michael. I think Kamui has done such a fabulous job for us the past couple of years. He'd be a fantastic one to come in and take some seat time if we had the opening for him.
I can't argue any of those choices, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, not to take the thunder away from the two guys we already have. The two guys we have are amazing, Ranger and Briscoe. I think they're going to do an amazing job once the season starts up. So. Oh
yeah, I completely agree there. We just like to have some fun here and put everybody on the spot at least once an episode, just to make you sweat a little bit.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun talking this morning. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are able to stay safe and stay busy until racing comes back. And whenever that is, and hopefully the near future, I look forward to seeing you guys out on the track and best of luck this year.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
All right, take care.